Mic is off. The mic is off. It's on. It's on. When that is around, it's when it's lit up, it's on.
I have no idea. I've never been here before.
Oh, that's right. Can't remember. It was 2 weeks ago.
All right, Kathy, can you let me know when
We're ready.
you're good to go? All right. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Wednesday, July 21st, 2021 Wasco County Board of Commissioners. And for those of you in the room, why don't we stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? Can you lead us, Kathy? Either Kathy?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, this is my first time back live, so it's very weird. It's like, are you guys there or where are you?
That's why I, touched you.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what is that? That's never happened before. All right. So do we have any changes to the agenda?
We
Any
don't,
additions?
although I'd like to add to either discussion or commission call our August 18th meeting.
Okay. Okay, remind me if I forget. Any commissioners, do you have anything? Joe was okay.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Just, we got this email from Shane Coyle about whether or not we're okay with him using some of the funds for the bird situation at the landfill. And I don't know that we responded to him.
Okay, good point.
So we should probably.
All right. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and start with public comment? So folks that are joining us in the room, everyone, anybody want to make a public comment? All right, how about we go to the folks that are joining us virtually? Anybody out there want to provide any public comment to the commission at this time? If you do, go ahead and unmute yourself and show us and talk to us. There's Phil. Did you want to say something?
No, it's just, it's good to see you. It's too nice a day to come in. I'm going to be doing some gardening while I listen in. Sorry.
Nice. Well, I know you have quite the garden, so good luck.
Thanks.
All right. Then we will go ahead and get on to our discussion items. Well, why don't I start? Any department heads have anything that they want to bring forward that's not otherwise on the agenda? Any news? Any happy news? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Nicole Beekler, HR Director for Wasco County. We just implemented guidance for our staff for all training for the OSHA heat-related illness prevention. That's supposed to be implemented and trained by August 1st. So there was a very short turnaround. Thank you, OSHA. So really, truly, it's in force for 180 days. And then we will see what OSHA does towards the end of the summer, kind of into the fall, and whether or not that guidance becomes permanent.
Can you tell us just thumbnail of what that guidance is?
So essentially it boils down to having a heat awareness prevention training, which includes knowing and recognizing signs and symptoms of different heat-related illnesses. Also within that, just an emergency medical plan that essentially recognizes what steps to take if somebody is experiencing a heat-related illness.
And everybody has been trained on that?
It just went out this morning.
Oh, okay.
Just hit the inbox.
Yes.
Okay. And that's just like an online webinar training?
It's a PowerPoint, and then it's a guidebook that was put together that's essentially been created as a tool for each department head, more so specific to those teams that do work out in the elements on a daily basis, so that they can have that conversation with their staff about, what do you do making sure that they understand that there's shade requirements, there's water requirements, break requirements, that sort of
So is the training for all staff or just,
everybody.
okay, so do they have to certify in some way that,
There's an acknowledgement that was attached as well that will go back to me.
cool, okay. All right, anything else?
The compensation philosophy changes are making a big impact. I think that the staff is very excited and very appreciative of that. We've gotten really positive feedback. And so I think also understanding and knowing that there's continued work to be done. Everybody's really been just a huge proponent of it. So
Of course, yes,
they're playing a part in that.
yes, thanks for pulling it together.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I have
All right, thanks, Nicole. Anything else?
All right, budget stuff came for community corrections yesterday.
Yeah, what was it?
It was a moon. Total amounts, I had projected a bit less to be safe, but they gave us some bumps to make up for some unfunded misdemeanors that were obligated or expected to supervise, as well as to make up a gap in the governor's budget that somewhat loosely based on a cost study that was done 2.5 years ago. So it helps. And now my puzzle is to put together, all my expenses with the new money and Sherman County and make it fit. So I'm working on that now. It's not bad. It's better than what I had hoped for. Being careful. So
That's good news. Has the Sherman County transition happened yet?
that's official. That's all done. Brad Lowry, the sheriff over there, they've got a reasonable pool of money as sort of their own beginning balance dedicated to community corrections or collateral expenses or unexpected things transition. And as reflected in the state budget, the grant and aid and Measure 57 funds give to Wasco County those amounts. So there's support for what we're doing for Sherman County there. So that helps. And I basically, when I do my expenses, I'll basically proportionally, with the help of Mike, proportionally account for the amount of Sherman expenses that we share in programs that are open to all residents of both counties. And so I'll have some new spreadsheets to make better, keep it consistent moving forward.
Cool.
Do you anticipate hiring more staff or anything?
No, we're, I would say more than capacity right now. Expecting a retirement at some point, medium future here. No real timeline for sure, but I think we're certainly holding steady where we're at. And when we experience a loss, I think we need to accommodate the budget reality and keep things tight.
Mhm. But
As far as coverage, it's working out great. We took on a PO from Sherman County who lateraled over and is now ours. So we have an additional PO than what we've ever had before.
But the bottom line is you got more money from the state.
Yeah, we did.
And, okay, that's good news.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
We'll probably have a budget adjustment coming at some point, just to true those up.
Great.
You have a question, Steve?
No, thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go on to discussion list, weed contract modification. Arthur, welcome.
Welcome. I'm going to come within 6 feet of you.
Excellent.
Okay. That is the
You want to touch me?
more than just a fist. That is off the record. That is kind of the downside of the pandemic, being over and opening up. I think I was more attracted wearing a mask or via video, but now that I'm here,
It's so glad to have you
it's
back.
who I am. So. Luckily, we're not recording this. No, I'm joking.
By the way, you're not very funny on Zoom, so
No,
it's
I'm not.
really great to have you back.
Save your laugh. This is a really bad bit at the end. So this is a modification of an existing agreement we have with the Forest Service for spraying noxious weeds on the federal lands. So this all came about because of the White River fire. So they've gone out and done their survey, and they have desired, they want to try to, when a fire sweeps through, right? And you're fighting that fire. A lot of those weed seeds, they don't die. They'll actually go dormant, and then they'll sprout up worse than ever before because of the fire activity. So they've actually identified about 100 acres additional work that they would really like to have done. Talk to Merle and he can facilitate that. And I think it's really good and important work to try to get accomplished. So this basically extends the period of our existing contract from December 31st of 2021 to December 31st of 2022. Adds $11,050 and then identifies the additional areas around the perimeter of kind of the White River Fire where the work will take place. So.
Cool. Questions for Arthur?
No.
I'm assuming that the amount of money we're getting versus the amount of work that we're doing is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it was, we update our rates every year for both personnel and for the chemical, and then obviously for the equipment. And yeah, this meets all those rates. We're not in the business of making money, but we would break even 100% on it. Be just fine. So.
Cool. Is the area that we're doing pretty tough to do in terms of terrain, or not so much?
It is and it isn't. Some of the stuff, you know, he has to do it either with ATV or just with the regular with the 4-wheel drive. So all of those has to be accessible via that. A lot of it will be perimeter or roadside. You just can't. I mean, some of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like everything else. You know the area. You try to keep the weed seed in this area, and you try to surround it. Hopefully, you never can totally defeat it. I mean, some of the skeleton weed stuff. It doesn't matter what you do with it. It just. I don't know how you kill it. I mean, it's really, really hard. Some of those noxious weeds are very difficult. So, yeah. It's like I said, it's a really important work, and especially to keep it from spreading outside after the fire activity. So,
cool. All right. Anybody have a motion?
Sure, I'll move to approve modification 4 to USDA Forest Service Agreement 17-SA11060600-017.
Second motion.
Nice job on the numbers.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. All right, thanks, Arthur.
thank you.
All right, moving on, we got Ivan Ormap.
Yes, Ivan Donahue, survey technician in the Public Works Road Department. Currently, this is kind of going to be one of our last survey control. Okay, thank you. I'll hold up until she gets the map going.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There you go. That's as good as I'm ready to get.
If I could have you scroll down just a little bit on that. Excellent, that'll work. Okay, so this would be Wasco County. I believe we're now in the 11th phase of this survey control collection. Currently, we're, we kind of overlap our two grants. So the green area where Shantico is located, we're finishing that work up now. And then the salmon colored region, which would include the city of the town of Antelope, is this next grant that we've applied for with the state of Oregon Department of Revenue. We've applied for $50,700 to capture 65 control points. And with this, we're going to be doing can't see it, 7 south township ranging from about, I think, 14 to 19, our county borders. And so this grant will clean up our southern county borders area. And then with this control, we are going to collect data now in the 11th year. Our next plan of action would be the next grant, which would then further north on our map, there's some areas that we never covered with grants around the Dalles, they're west and east. And we would be doing a cleanup of survey control there, and then dueling also working on the actual remapping of the assessor's tax maps. Because now for about a year and a half, I've got paid grants from the state to work on training for ArcGIS, because eventually the state is going to transition from ArcView Map, which is a software program, into ArcView Pro. And for counties to basically control their own mapping programs, you would have to be using this software change that eventually the companies will stop maintenance on. So it's kind of like a Windows switchover of softwares for GIS. So that was what our future plan is with all this data we've collected for 11 years. And with this last one, though, it will be the southern area that's in the salmon colors. So if the board approves it, we'd like to move forward with this grant to continue on the work. And then the long goal is to help, citizens of the county see their properties and within about a 1 foot property boundary on aerial views of images on our GIS mapping website.
So when that happens, things will like kind of go like that
Yeah.
instead of like kind of like this now.
Yeah, we did have previously, I presented examples. Tyco had shown areas of the Dalles that have been remapped. And you can see the real clean transition of property lines where they match up more with fences and more like hard structures of foundations. So it actually, you can see it as it happens with the remapping.
And the only area that's actually completed is that section in the Dalles.
Yes, that was previously done by Lane County contract. That expired, and now we kind of brainstormed on doing it either because it's done by the state or you would outsource it to a third party. So I took on the training to try to corral that in and do it in-house and keep it within the county. And then allow other smaller counties to kind of do the same progress. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, Brad, did you have anything to add?
I'd just like to recognize Ivan's work on this. He's doing a great job on it. And it's been really successful in encouraging the state to provide this training. Previously, we've been applying for the training through grants, but Ivan was able to leverage them to actually provide the training directly out of the fund to not only us, but other counties as well. So we'll get this training without having to apply for it grants. Ourselves, and we're relying on other people to do it. The state doesn't have the bandwidth. They're running out of other counties to fall on. So in the future, we'll become previous Lane County, and we can do that for other counties. Yeah.
Cool. When you guys go out and get these control points, do you both go out together typically, or you generally go out solo?
Typically, it's me, and then we hire on a summer intern.
Okay.
Alex.
That's when you get the control points. That pretty much is, you don't do in the middle of winter?
No.
Okay.
But we have done, I have been in Pine Hollow with about 2 feet of snow. It doesn't bother me.
You're actually looking for those little things,
Yeah, exactly. The one I found.
little things, whatever.
Usually a 5/8" iron rock or
Ah.
rebar that's 3 feet.
Oh.
And then it's in the ground.
Oh,
And then they would
it's
put
not
the
just
cap
a
on
little
top.
bit, oh, okay. Okay.
In
Huh.
this southern area, though, we'll be looking for probably the original general land office.
Mhm.
Rocks next to the
Stone,
Yeah.
mounds of stone.
Mounds of
Literally a
stone
mound of stone. and a
with
field of
carvings on
stones.
it. Yeah.
Probably haven't been found since the late 1800s.
Yeah, take a picture and show
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
that'd be cool.
If you can find it.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
What is the difference between remapping and control?
Well, it's both control, but the control we're collecting in the field versus taking all that data back and then putting it to use on using the control to remap.
Oh, I see, okay. I see. So the remap is really the end result.
Yes,
So eventually that whole map will be pink.
Pink,
all salmon.
that's the goal,
Yeah,
right?
pink,
Okay,
Not including the forest and not including the Warm Springs, right?
No, yeah, as you can see, the Warm Springs reservation line kind of cuts along. And that's untaxable areas currently now, so not really applying. There is talk in the core map circle about potentially getting those areas though, just to know. I mean, if we have the equipment, why not?
Cool. Other questions for Brad or? Okay, we have a motion.
Chair, I'll move to approve the on-map ITA contract DOR-313-21.
And I'll second.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I would concur. Thanks, Ivan and
Thank
Brad,
you.
for the work that you guys do. It's really, for anybody that doesn't use the ORMAT or the ArcGIS system regularly, it's an amazing system and it's really cool to see. I like maps, of course, but to see like where things are at and where things are at relation, who owns what. I mean, eventually we're going to have all sorts of information on there,
Yes.
more and more. So
Yeah.
it's certainly a system that is very, very useful. And I look at a lot of different map systems in a lot of different counties, and ours is bloody good. So. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks, Simon.
Thank you.
Brad, appreciate that. Yes.
Maybe, can we check in with our online folks to make sure they're hearing us okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Commissioner Schwartz is asking if you all can hear us okay. So anybody out there want to unmute themselves and say yes, no, kind
Yes.
of?
Yes, I can hear. Yes, no, yes. Yeah, we can hear.
That's good. Well, if you can't hear us, you can always remind us, say, excuse me, we can't hear you. So, all right, thank you very much. All right, Fair Board appointments.
So I'll take that. We just have a couple of openings on the Fair Board. I think they've been in existence for a while, but since we didn't have a fair last year, there wasn't a lot of pressure to get them filled. Both of these applicants have been reviewed by the existing members of the Fair Board and recommended for appointment.
Excellent. Questions for Kathy on the Fair Board appointments?
No,
None here?
no, I'm just so glad people want to do this work.
Right.
That's great.
They want to step up.
Doing
Are
great.
these are replacing folks that were on there, or are these
They
new?
came off, yeah.
They came
Okay,
off.
who
I
was it?
think Ken only
Christiana came off.
Oh,
Ken came off.
Okay,
Ken,
Ken.
Only
Ken came off and who else?
and Christiana.
Oh, okay. Oh, Ken came off after so many years.
And Kathy's one of our 4-H leaders, you know, Brendan, Grubb, Ty Valley, and
That's great.
has long history with fairs.
Excellent. All right, any motions?
Sure, I move to approve orders 21-039 and 21-040, appointing Kathy Lamoureux and Brandon Ashley to the Wasco County Fair Board.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. All right, 2 more board members. Do we, like when the other board members go off, do we send them a note of thanks or something?
We do when they let me know. Sometimes I
Okay.
don't know until somebody says, well, we've got somebody new for the Fair Board. I'm like, wait, you're full. Oh, no, so-and-so resigned.
Oh, okay. Well, I just think,
I will send them out.
yeah, both of them have been, I think, long time. I mean, Ken has been the chair. Oh, my God. yeah.
Actually, I think I already sent one to Kim.
Did you?
because
Okay.
he resigned quite a while ago.
Oh, okay.
And I knew about it. I was
Okay.
just letting this go.
Cool. All right, then I think additions were August 18th meeting,
Was what?
August 18th meeting?
Yes, do you want to do that now?
Sure, yeah.
And so August 18th, there was already a request from the board to have a shorter meeting as possible because there was going to be some travel to the legislative committee retreat as well as the Eastern Oregon. Thank you, Economic Summit. And so I have kept that very narrow. In the meantime, McKed has a transportation kickoff meeting. Tyler thought it would be beneficial for the board to be able to attend that. And it is 8:30 to 10:30 that morning.
On that same day.
On that same
Oh.
day, which the request from the board was to not have the board meeting go any later than 10:30 or 11 to allow for that travel time. But based on the request, I have kept everything off of the 18th that I possibly could, and there is only one thing on there right now, and it's an update on housing shelters. And I've already spoken to the presenter, who is perfectly willing to have it be on September the 1st. So the question is, do you want to attend the MCHED Summit? And I will respond, I will RSVP for you, and cancel a board session for the 18th. Or do you want to move forward with having a board session and miss the MCHED transportation?
What do you guys think?
I think we should do the MCAD transportation piece and cancel our commission meeting and notice that, let folks know we'll be there.
Okay.
If it arises, we can deal with it.
All right, so sounds like we have concurrence.
Yeah.
So we'll do that.
And you'll RSVP for us?
I will RSVP.
Thank you. Is that, do you know, or?
It is Zoom.
It is, okay. And then there's a legislative meeting after that. Is it in Hermiston?
It is in Hermiston, right?
Hermiston? Okay.
And it's sadly to say, you're not involved.
Yeah.
And Scott and I are involved on the legislative committee. And that's what the Wednesday from 1 to 5 is,
Okay.
is me.
But you can go. They said non-legislative
Right.
folks can go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And right after that is, or the next day, is
Right.
the economics.
Then Summit is
In
next.
Hermiston?
Yeah.
Okay,
Summit is the
And
next
that's-
2 days.
for everybody who wants to.
That's for whoever.
Wants to
That's
go.
wide open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I'll
just
let you
me
know about that. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. The 18th, we will not be having that commission meeting that day. Okay, and then Kathy, you said the APHIS, you had a question about the
Yeah,
APHIS.
no, I just, Shane had sent us this note about, let's see. Shall I just read it?
Sure.
Okay, so he first acknowledges, I appreciate you renewing our wildlife management contract in Wasco County. As you are probably aware, there is no shortage of ravens in the county. Myself and Oregon Department of Environmental Quality met with Waste Connections about assisting them in mitigating the ravens at the landfill. And now we are in the process of reaching out to the orchard owners near the landfill to see if they would like our assistance also. For work we do on the landfill, we will ask for Waste Connections to fund that. However, I'm hoping to get the commission's blessing to use a portion of the funds of our county agreement to assist these orchard owners who are losing fruit to ravens. I say a portion, as I think it is wise to make sure there are still funds available for other issues that may arise in the county, such as predator control. I think protecting orchards is a wise use of the agreement funds, but due to it being a new concept, thought I would run it by the commission first. And he's asking for our thoughts, and that is from Shane T. Coyle, District Supervisor, USDA Wildlife Services, for the record. So I hadn't responded because it's supposed to come from the three of us, so I just thought we should respond. Certainly is something I think that is appropriate work for the USDA contract that we
You've
have.
been up there on that, haven't you?
I've seen it, yeah, but in the 8.5 years that I've been on the commission, I've never had APHIS call and ask to follow through with the contract that we have. So I'm fine. Go take care of it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it's for. That's why we agreed to work with them. And that's why we put the money aside and by golly, we need to be after it. So, and I thought they were handling it. I guess that's why we have an audience this morning. So, so I had not heard anything to the contrary that it wasn't being taken care of. So
it is. I think what Shane is asking is basically because they haven't done that kind of work in the county, just to FYI, making sure that we're good with that. So I think I spoke with him directly about that. So he just wanted to make us aware. It's just something new they haven't done here before. And so they just wanted to, just out of courtesy, I think, it's just letting us know. So I'm certainly good with that work.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what they're for.
Cool. All right. Well, it sounds like we have consensus. I don't remember if that was just sent to us, so I
I
can
was
get.
copied on it. I'm happy to respond.
Thank
Okay,
you,
yeah, why don't you
Kathy.
do that?
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and we have a consent agenda that includes just the minutes from July 7th. And any changes, comments, questions on that?
Mr. Chairman, approval.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. That is everything up above. Why don't we, what time is it? We have a minute left. We've had lots of folks come in from the public. Why don't we, if anybody has any public comment they want to make, now's the time, if it's on our agenda, feel free. Yeah.
My name is Gary Wade.
Yeah.
2653 Mile Road. Yeah, all the orchardists here are supportive of any efforts you can provide for reducing bird populations that have become really bad up there. It's not, it harms the cherries because the birds sit there eating the cherries and the tops. But it also is a real health risk because they're crapping all over the fruit, and the potential for salmonella outbreak or farm federal safety inspections for food safety as well. Don't want to see bird droppings on fruit. Potential that we could get shut down. So thank you for agreeing to let that go ahead. We've been working on this for a few years, and it's really critical that we move ahead and find a way to deal with this as well as implement the plan.
So why do you think it has changed or increased? I mean, have they identified potentially what that is?
Myself, I don't really have any idea other than there's a lot more garbage. It's a lot bigger place now than it was before. And I'm not sure that any of their techniques that they've been using have been effective at all. And so over time, these crows, ravens, whatever you don't know, they made that the home, and they're not moving around typically like they would. So there's huge concentrations of gulls and crows.
What measures have they been doing? What have they historically, and what are they talking about doing now?
Well, we don't know yet. What the plan hasn't been developed by APHIS. We've been asking them now to go ahead and develop a plan. That was their responsibility, not ours. And I think that they've been shooting off some firework type things. Well, it's not even cannons. They're small fireworks.
Oh.
All it does is the birds go up and the birds come back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either that or they come over to our orchard.
Right.
But if you go over there in the afternoon and right now, there'll be between 100 and maybe 200 or 300 crows sitting in our 10-acre orchard. It's truly amazing. And they've spread out quite a bit to other orchards in the area. They at least have a orchard view has a large planting there. Bill Anderson have significantly more acreage there than we do. And it's got worse every year, and I don't see anything. It's very difficult to move those crows out from what I heard from APHIS. So it's going to take a concerted effort and a good plan.
Yeah. Well, that'll be good. I work with some vineyards and they have a huge problem with starlings, not crows, not so much, but I mean, there's all sorts of ideas of flying drones and using lasers and sounds, but like the shooting of them typically works for a while, but unless you're out there doing it all the time, they just tend to learn and they come back. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with in terms of a mitigation measures so they can address it.
I did talk to Shane recently about that, and he said they're probably looking at some sort of pesticide use at this point in time. It's shooting is short term and doesn't really work for long term, and so that's what they're maybe proposing. So
cool. So are all of you kind of involved in working with them on the solution?
We've had a number of meetings.
Okay, good. Excellent. Well, good.
So, question, Chair. So how many agencies are involved? How many do we have that are talking? ODF&W, Corps of Engineers, DEQ, landfill, landowners, So we've got everybody at the table? Okay,
Not the Corps of Engineers.
well, because the goals, Jeremy and I were thinking that we may have an issue there, so we're only concerned with crows and ravens, or the goals also an issue? Okay, I just want to make sure, so.
Goals don't seem to eat the chairs like the crows do,
Okay.
trees, but certainly they're
Okay.
flying over.
So, yeah, since I haven't heard much, I was assuming that things were progressing and moving forward. So I'm hoping that they are, and that sounds like that if they haven't been, they will be now. So.
It'd be useful to have a timeline of when we expect a plan and implementation. I think that's been also a problem, just keeps getting kicked down the road. So I think that would be very helpful coming from the county. It's some timelines and some.
So you're asking us to put pressure on APHIS to ramp that up?
How long
Okay.
does it take to do a plan?
Okay.
It's just open-ended. It can take a long time.
As well as the landfill.
And the landfill.
Yeah.
And we've been working on this for well over years, since I got here, we've been working on this issue for the last 3 years.
It's all about being good neighbors and having the right expectations.
Why don't we, Kathy, when you send the response back to APHIS, why don't you ask them if they can tell us when a plan, and maybe even invite him to an upcoming commission meeting to kind of talk to us about what the plan is, and that would be a good thing to keep the ball moving. And yeah.
What about the landfill? Could we ask them to come
Yeah, I
and
think
give
they
us
should, I think they should come at the same time.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
There's also some questions about how the contract you're discussing today may affect the APHIS contract moving forward. So that's a big question that Gary brought to my attention. In other counties where these wildlife abatement contracts have gone through, APHIS is no longer doing work on some of that. And we'd really like to ensure that APHIS continues to do their work as a landfill.
And I can respond to that.
That is a high priority with me as well. We have in our county, we have what I term 2 issues. We have a bird issue in the north end, and we have cougar and coyote predator in the south end. And so in my mind, I want to hire the highly and most qualified folks to do those 2 specialized tasks. And that's why the conversation is on the for later on today, because I feel that we can split it and we can have 2 contractors. We do it all the time, and there's no reason that we can't do that. And that's why it's on for today, so that we can have that conversation.
Well, I just think it's important that, if there is a conflict. Cherry said that cherry production county is, 10 times the economic employment benefits and everything else in there. This is a growing problem. So if there's a conflict, I appreciate if you let us know or decide that can wait. Whatever.
Is this issue that you're talking about is primarily around the landfill? Or is it in other areas of the county in terms of on the orchards?
It's concentrated around the landfill. However, I have had reports from other orchards that there are more birds than usual. And I know from my experience, I have a research site on Doak Road, which is right off of Steel Road. And the concentration of crows has gotten to be much greater there. In fact, we see the crows getting up on hawks and having these big bird fights. We're out there looking.
I think if you talk to German talks,
we've observed in our properties in Orchard View that they're even on Mill Creek side, there are higher populations of crows and ravens than there's been historically. And what's causing that? I don't know if it's the landfill or just the nature of things. But they definitely, as the cherry industry has changed over decades, now we have a wider variety of cherries planted. So used to be, it was all banks, they all got right about the same time. And so there were just more cherries than the birds could ever really make a big impact. But now we have pockets of varieties that are ripe early or they're ripe very late. The birds have really learned to specialize and hone in on those. It makes a huge impact. It's a really big impact on this.
Could you identify yourself, please?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Mike Omega.
Oh, hi, Mike. Hi. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I just want to say, I cannot overstate the potential implications of a salmonella outbreak due to these crows within the cherry industry. It would just be absolutely devastating for our economy here in the Dalles, but also throughout Oregon and Washington. It's really important to get these birds under control.
So is there work in the industry on this issue at all, or?
There is work in the industry on bird abatement, but those birds are very smart and they learn. So we're constantly trying to find new and better ways to control that.
And we all do that.
Yes, and they do.
I mean, we have to do that on our own. This is just way above and beyond what I think we should be expecting from that.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for coming. It sounds like hopefully we're going to hear more in an upcoming meeting to kind of get a sense of where this is headed, because obviously I think, we understand the impact of the industry and want to make sure that, there's something, if we can help mitigate some of that, we certainly would support helping you. Hopefully there'll be a better outcome in the future. So, all right. Anything else? All right. Thanks again for coming. All right, so we're going to go on to Bridges to Change contract renewal. Fritz.
Fritz Bachman, Wasco County Community Corrections. So yeah, this is the exact same contract other than the cost numbers as we've had in years past. So we had started this contract back in 2017. We started out gangbusters with money dedicated for it, and the money landscape has changed over the years. And then just cutting costs but not wanting to lose the program. Bridges has worked very well with my office to reduce costs, manage staff, and have actually pursued outside revenue sources to balance what they're doing more holistically in the county, not just for my office, but for the community at large. And basically, they have been able to offset costs to my office by funding some peer mentors that work for the county generally for opiates and treatment connections through peer mentors. And while they are supportive and provide services to those on supervision, the contract we have hones in on paying for one recovery mentor as opposed to several we've had in the past. So while we still benefit from having multiple peer mentors in the community, this contract now winnows it down to one. And then it cuts the house manager position. They're there all the time, but Bridges is charging us only for a part-time amount of their actual dedicated time to the house. It's been doing that for several months now, and it's working out pretty well. So the total amount now, it's about the minimum we can pay Bridges to keep the house we have right next door to my office. They do have other houses in the community. Those are all funded through their other channels. But I want to maintain the program for the long term, and this cuts the costs down to Wasco County in my office to about the minimum we can do to keep the program. It's sustainable as far as what the impacts are of the program and what Bridges can afford to employ the staff dedicated to the house. So I think it's a good, we're at a good place in the contract as far as maintaining it long term. These are costs that are not like what they were years ago, and yet we're still benefiting a lot. I will share outcomes that I just collected last week. I would have put them with the board packet, except I had the numbers together just about a week ago. So I can just share a graph I put together. I've made graphs like this in the past. As far as recidivism rates of residents in the house. These are not just program graduates, but they are everyone who's ever gone to the house. Graduation rates are about a little over half the residents who go into the program stay through all 3 phases and graduate out and move on into their own house. And so to explain this graph, the program's been going on for 4 years. And while this covers a span of, it's a 12-year span of history. So what you're seeing are that all of these people are or were on supervision. Every time they got arrested and went to jail, that was counted. And what you can see are basically criminal activities, a criminal career sort of developing up as they age, as far as numbers of arrests for these individuals. The red line then is the point at which they entered the housing program. And then we continue to track the recidivism after having entered the house. And we do see a drop. Now I realize that with time, there's a higher likelihood that they will get arrested. But on the tail end here, what we're seeing is a good 4 years of the house being operational. And recidivism still drops, within months shortly after having entered the program. There's a little delay in the drop, I think, after having initially entered the program, because we have a handful of folks who fail or bail out within a month or 2. About a year out, you also see a little blip. I see it on various graphs. I'm looking at my data. I think for people managing sobriety and addiction, at about a year, there's, they can manage and cope and maybe white knuckle their way through a year. And that's kind of a hard mark, is about a year out as far as any relapses that occur. So we get a little blip up for folks a year out. But I think the trends in the graph speak for themselves. I think that for folks, we get into the program and engage at any level we can, even if they don't graduate, it plants a seed or it really sets them on a long-term life track. So I think as far as the contract's value, it's well worth the jail savings costs on the tail end. So we're treating more of not just the symptoms, but the root causes of what's going on here. And housing is just a real core aspect that, they're not entangled with a lot of things in their lives where they're figuring out where they're living, and wherever that is, there are other activities going on or people involved. So it's a great program. I can't speak highly enough of Bridges to Change. They are well connected to the state. They've lobbied well for various topics, and they've always accommodated my office when I get real with them on my budget, like, hey, what do we need to do here to keep the program? And they've sorted things out. I've helped them out with their grant writing. They've helped me out with mine, and it's benefited the whole county. So in any case, yeah, any questions about the program or the outcomes or anything about it, I'm happy to speak to them. I'm excited to renew this for another year.
Excellent. Questions for Fred?
No, I think you're doing a great job, and I'm really glad that the legislature gave us a little bit more and didn't cut us. So I'm very thankful. Appreciate all your hard work, you and your team. Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question. Yeah. So I know that this particular program is one that you had to cut because of some funding shortages that we've had over the last couple of years, right?
We had reduced the number of peer mentors, and there were, not that we were paying for them, but there were a couple of next step houses that Bridges was considering selling because they weren't sure if they could afford them.
I see.
They've decided to keep those now.
Oh, okay. But do you anticipate that maybe we can do have more of this program with the increased funding we got from the state, or are you just not there yet with the planning?
Not from my funding.
Okay.
Bridges, however, has secured separate funding through like ballot measure 110 efforts and even others to supplant peer mentor numbers, actually increase, add one peer mentor in the county and add a housing intake coordinator person to facilitate basically people specifically for housing.
Okay.
And then, not that they're gonna add, but so for various folks, when they're going into a next step house, there is a requirement to be able to pay some semblance of a rent, and it's a low rent. Years past, I had subsidized some of that for people on supervision to get them started. Sometimes people are on the cusp of a job or getting their financial situation squared away, but they're really fresh. In the past, my office has been able to support that. I can't really afford that anymore, and I don't. Bridges, however, is doing it themselves to provide that cushion so that folks, maybe it's like, okay, yeah, you got a job starting in so many weeks, or we know you're looking and can get one, but for a month now, you can't pay rent or no security deposit, no whatever. So they get them set up a little more squared away, a cushion, and then a month or two down the road, they are paying rent.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a really good partnership.
It is.
Yeah.
They've been flexible.
Okay.
All right, Nicole.
Just to kind of follow up on Schwartz's comment, I was curious about where Bridges funding streams come from and kind of the sustainability of that program moving forward outside of state money or grants.
So one of the big ones they got more recently this past spring is, and I can't remember the law's name now, but it was connected with ballot measure 110. And what had happened back in, I believe it was April, was that the state had gone out to all the counties saying, hey, we're probably going to only accept about one application per county. But it's for, at the time, it was a one-time lump amount to send some funds from ballot measure 110 to drug use diversion, get a lot of quick screenings done on people who are being diverted from the criminal justice system, and with that connected to housing. Wasco County, I know the Gorge Health Council applied with the help of Seneca Living and One Community Health and Next Door. Bridges attended those meetings and on their own decided to apply separately with their own approach, which I think was a little more targeted and concise as far as what they were asking for. So ultimately, and I didn't have a dog in the fight per se, I just wanted to see Wasco County get something. Bridges got the awarded ballot measure 110 fund, and that was a one-time deal. The Gorge Health Council and the other collaboration did not, unfortunately, and that was sad to hear. I am glad that Bridges, we got something in the county through Bridges. Now, the expectation is that moving forward, it should be an annual or a semi-annual revenue stream from the state as part of ballot measure 110, still targeted for screenings on people who are being diverted from criminal justice system, and with the intent that they get connected with treatment and housing if they can. So I'm hopeful that that revenue stream occurs and continues. That said, there's unknowns. I mean, it's the legislature, so I presume the money is there and the pressure is on that, hey, we need to address behavioral health in our communities. Bridges right now in Wasco County has positioned themselves to sort of be that entity. I would see that. Now the way they've been collaborative with my office, I've encouraged the fact that they're not going to shut out, the Health Council, Center for Living, One Community Health. It's very collaborative, but they are in charge of that funding. So that's one revenue stream that is going to support them long-term in Wasco County, regardless of my office's involvement with them. Separately, they're here to stay. So, and there have been other grants they've applied for as well.
Are there other questions?
I don't know if that answered all.
No, I just would echo that I've heard really great things about in the community, and I would hope that they have pretty strong sustainability, game plan in order to make sure they can continue to stay in our community and offer the services they have in the community, because they have been very critical for us.
I think their situation out here, it was really tenuous the last couple of years. We weren't sure where things might go. Honestly, I think ballot measure 110 clinched a lot of that for them, having got their foot in the door on this revenue stream. So I see them staying, and they're not contracting anymore. They're actually going to grow. So I feel encouraged by that.
Awesome. All right.
Broadly, I would just add, budget-wise, so my caseloads have been steadily dropping for the right reasons. There have been some passive expirations due to COVID, and we may see a little bump later as the clog of COVID kind of works its way through the justice system. I would say, so 3-4 years ago, we were supervising upwards of 350 people. We have steadily gone down and down. We haven't crossed 200 yet, but we're approaching 200 people. It's a drastic decrease in the number of people we're actually supervising. Part of that on the front end is the change in prosecutions and the change in drug laws and trying to not overly criminalize or supervise people who really need treatment. My office sort of sits in the middle where we do all that, and yet they were sentenced to, felonies or prior felonies. So the nature of what my office does is changing steadily over the years. The caseloads are steadily dropping. That does impact my budget. So long-term, as far as what proportion of pie we get, that has narrowed. So I am grappling with that. Long-term, we'll see how that goes. Another bill that is passing, Senate Bill 620, it is going to be signed, I'm sure, by the governor. It eliminates supervision fees. For my office, now that's not all the fees we collect. We collect fees for treatment and other things. But we do, in all counties except Multnomah, collect a monthly supervision fee. Like if you're on supervision, you pay anywhere from $20 to $50 a month for the privilege of being on supervision. Now, arguably, sort of like arguments around bail, it's a situation that things outside of your control now cost you money to simply be in compliance. I understand the reasonings behind that. The bill eliminates supervision fees, the base monthly fees. I would estimate, that could be, it fluctuates, but it could be 80 to 90,000 a year to my budget. That starts January 1. So that's a budget consideration for me as far as managing a contraction in my budget. Now, I've heard that in the upcoming short session, the legislature wants to address that reality that, many counties, such as my office, we do not get any general funding from the county. Some counties support community corrections through general funds. We do not. And so if we're not collecting revenue from people getting the services, then we're basically doing the same work for less money. So it may be that the legislature supports us a little bit, given that reality. I don't know. I'm basically expecting a short, less revenue from collecting fees. So I have to do some projections on that yet, though.
All right.
Just to give you some heads up.
Okay, very good. Well, obviously the graph is a pretty strong point. And maybe just for Kathy's, years ago, at the beginning of this, we actually were contemplating buying a house and operating the house ourselves. And lots of things changed. Bridges of Health came into the picture, and there was lots of controversy where the house was located, neighbors in the neighborhood. And I would say this program, as much as almost anything in this world, has just been a marvelous success. I mean, that's my perspective. And even neighbors that were concerned, we had meetings with them and all sorts of stuff. And they basically changed their tune. And I've seen it. I've seen the peer mentors. I've met with them at times. And it's just like, it's an amazing program that I think does great work, and it's super important. So I was concerned that maybe we are trimming them back too much, but I mean, it sounds like
they're comfortable with it.
Okay.
We've had long discussions about these things, and we're not certainly the only ones. They were concerned about cutting houses in Clackamas County and Washington County. Community corrections across the board they've got dropping caseloads, and until the most recent budget, money challenges.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like they are finding other sources of funding for their programs as well at a state level that help our local programs. So that's great.
Some laws have changed for them as well, where though for clients involved in treatment with a peer mentor assigned to them, they can bill for peer mentor hours to OHP if there's a connected treatment aspect to it. So anyway, yeah, they've repositioned themselves pretty well.
Cool. All right. Well, we're behind schedule now. Any other questions or do we have a motion?
No, Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the Transitional Housing Support Services Program Personal Services Contract between Wasco County and Bridges to Change.
I'll second that.
All right, motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks, Fritz.
you,
Appreciate the
Fritz.
work you and your staff do. Great work.
Appreciate it.
Always good to hear about it. All right, moving on. Matthew Cleaves, Annex A Renovations.
Hi, thank you. My name is Matthew, I'm the Administrative Services Director for Wasco County. Thank you for the opportunity this morning, Commission. For you, you have a staff memo that I'll just briefly overview. This is involving North Central Public Health District and Annex A as well as Annex B and C. So prior to COVID-19, NCPHD staff had been located in all three of these facilities, Annex A, B, and C. The primary was Annex A, that's where the majority of their offices are and where nearly all their clients first make contact with.
Have you ever been there?
Oh, yeah. You still live there practically, but.
With the onset of COVID-19, we relocated some of the NCPA staff from Annex B on the second floor into Annex C, along as part of our expansion of our emergency operations center in response to COVID-19. And NCPHD brought some additional staff on for that pandemic, as we all know. One of the opportunities or the concept that we have been discussing is that there would be benefits to both NCPHD and Wasco County to having all of these staff located in one facility, spread out in homes 2 or 3. And so the proposal that you have in front of you is to rehab or do some improvements to the interior of Annex C, as well as improve the ADA ramp on the
Annex A, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Annex A.
Yeah.
As well as the ADA ramp on the exterior west side of Annex A. This would allow us to relocate all of NCPHD onto the first and second floor of Annex A and have access up there. Myself and the director for NCPHD, Shelley, have worked together to put that concept that is in the memo in front of you. And we will both be contributing financial resources to that project. NCPHD's contributions would primarily focus on the interior improvements to the second floor, new carpet, paint, some bathroom improvements. And Wasco County's improvements or financial contributions would focus on improvements or replacement of that ramp on the west end. This is something that we'd like to move forward. We've started the conversations, started to scope it out, wanted to run by the county commission to get any input and your support and move forward with that concept. There's some additional pieces that we can explore as we move forward. There are some community service work crews who may be able to assist us in doing some of the painting the interior, for example, that could bring some of the costs down. There's also some potential asbestos that's in the building, but we've already begun conversations with the city of Dalles, who received a $600,000 brownfield grant from the EPA to assist us in scoping that out and what it would cost to remediate any asbestos that we located up there. We can then use that information and that cost estimate that we generate with their support and go back to Business Oregon. They have several different grant programs available to public agencies to actually abate and clean up any kind of asbestos that we find in the building. And so just kind of wanted to give you that broad overview of this concept that we've been discussing. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for Matthew?
Thank you, Chair. This project will help us develop the future projects that we also have, correct?
Correct. So we are going to be restarting some of the conversations that we've been having with long-term space needs of Wasco County as a whole. We put a pause essentially on some of those conversations during the pandemic with a lot of the remote work that was going on. We didn't quite know what some of those space needs may be coming back in. But having Annex C available to temporarily relocate departments to enable rehabs of other facilities will be very useful and will allow those to move forward. Also, having Annex C and the second floor of Annex B available as a whole gives us more options as well, rather than having the before the pandemic, I think there were 4 to 5 staff up at the second floor B and 4 to 5 staff in C, just very disjointed and kind of jumbled. So again, freeing up that space will allow us to better utilize it and move some of these other options forward.
Thank you.
Is the ramp on the west side not usable at this time?
At this time, I've closed the ramp.
Okay.
The upstairs is vacant.
Okay.
But we also have some very significant rusting on that metal ramp. And it's deteriorating quite significantly. And so before reopening and allowing that second floor use, I'd like to see that ramp replaced. We've had some preliminary conversations with Bell Design Company. I also know of some contractors in the area who have some experience building some of these freestanding steel ramps on the exterior of buildings.
And will that be ADA accessible once it's fixed?
Right, it would be an ADA ramp. Yeah,
okay,
correct.
Great. It's kind of steep, but I guess it can work. It has worked for Center for Living in the past for many years, I think. So.
Well, and I'm sure through the process of redesigning that ramp, that lens.
Yeah.
There are metrics set for
Yeah.
this ADA ramp.
They'll have 7 or 8 more wings going back and forth.
Huh?
7 or 8 more laps.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think the rule of thumb offhand is for every 1 inch of rise, it's 1 foot of ramp. So, if you have 30 inches of rise, you have 30 feet of ramp. So, but we'll work closely with the building.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think there's a real benefit to the health district to be in one building. And I think that they're really in favor of this and they have some dollars to help. And so the upstairs does need some work. I've toured it. I think we all have, right? So it does need some paint and carpet and it has a funny bathroom, I will say. Can't really remember what it is. There's a couple weird bathrooms up there. And so I think they want to make one not so weird, right?
Right.
I won't go into the specifics of why they're weird, but.
Well, and I think a lot of these, like I said, with the utilization of support from the city of Business Oregon or utilization of community service work groups is an effort to stretch those dollars as far as possible. I'll also add that part of the contribution from NCPHD will be financial support for the facilities department as well as the IS department. As you can guess, it's a substantial heavy lift to move all of that furniture, carpet, all the furniture back, move workstations over from Annex C. And we want to make sure that our departments can effectively do that and continue to serve the entirety of the county. So we might, for example, bring in some temporary assistance to help with those moves and to help with those workstation breakdown setups.
So these estimates here for the 140,000 and 140,000, are those recent or are those kind of based on old information, or we don't really know the exact cost at this time, do we?
We don't know the exact cost at this time. I've spoken with some contractors to get a sense of what it would cost to bring in someone. And again, if we are talking about $100,000 or $140,000 level prevailing wage and everything like that. So taking into some of those considerations and developing that scope. Also thinking facility needs and IS needs, spoke with that director to generate what kind of assistance we might be looking at. And again, with Bell Design, it was an estimate for the ADA ramp. That's quite recent. We noticed the ramp deterioration at the tail end of the winter. Construction costs estimates were from Wasco.
Okay, and just one more comment. I mean, I noticed, I was there yesterday, I noticed there are people up on the roof working. And so that's putting in another tower of sorts, or, and it's getting some income from that, right?
Yeah, so I believe, time flies, but I believe it was four or 5 months or so ago, we brought lease agreements to the county commission for approval. And so yes, they're putting additional telecommunications equipment up on that roof, which generates monthly income for us.
For the county.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so what are you looking for from us today?
So I'm looking for any input or questions that I can clarify or that you can provide me. And your consent or support in continuing to move forward with this partnership concept with doing these renovations and upgrades to the Annex A facility.
Okay. So basically consensus.
Right.
Okay.
So, yes, Mr. Chair.
Yep. All right, so good.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We'll continue to work on this and bring back something more formal and time to
Great.
Perfect. Thanks, Matthew. All right. Last item on here, wildlife management, and John Belozer. Did I say that right?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll do a quick intro on this and then turn it over to Mr. Blozier to explain his proposal. As I stated earlier in the meeting, that I feel that we have two separate issues in the county that we need to keep an eye on and make sure that we're capable of protecting our constituents in the fashions that we need to. And so Mr. Blozier and I've been conversing for probably 2 months, and I thought it was time that he addressed the two of you and answer any questions that the two of you may have with this proposal of having two wildlife services agreements. I don't see an issue with that. I think that we can do that. We have many contracts with many other agencies and organizations, and I just feel that what we need to do is provide the best we can for our citizenry. And so with that, Mr. Blozier, floor is yours.
Thank you, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm kind of new at this, so forgive me for that. Good morning. Thank you guys for taking the time to let me present this to you. And other commissioners, I know that Mr. Kramer's looked at it. Do you have the proposals? I tried to email all that stuff to Kathy. Did you get that?
Yes, I think we have everything.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure. So we went anyway. So basically, I guess in a nutshell, is that I have proposed in these two other counties, and I think if you've got it in your packet that we actually have executed these contracts in two other counties in Central Oregon already, Jefferson and Crook. Those are already signed. As a matter of fact, I'll start working on a project in Crook County tomorrow morning. So anyway, so we've kind of already done that. What I'm proposing is to keep the same amount. Commissioner Kramer and I talked about that. Is to propose this contract. And forgive me, because when I talked to Commissioner Kramer the first time, there is a misplaced. So it's my understanding that you're going to try and keep wildlife services on board to possibly do some work like at the landfill, which is fine. That's your guys' prerogative. But this would be to deal with other issues throughout the county, whether it be from large or small predators, whether it be a threat to human health and safety or to people's livestock that affect them earning a living and putting money into our county coffers. So anyway, I don't know what else it's the same thing I've always done. I just won't be in the employment of the federal government, which means that we don't give 27% of the folks that we work for's tax money as an admin fee, and we can use it more to provide services for people. If you guys have questions, I certainly would answer. Commissioner Kramer's got to visit with me a lot about this, but if you guys have questions or concerns, and there's several of our constituents on this call right now that maybe want to add something into that as well, but I am happy to answer any question for you that you have.
All right.
I have no questions at this time. I'd like to hear from our other constituents that have taken the time to join us today.
Commissioner, before you start that, I just forwarded you an email from a citizen who was unable to be here today, but wanted to be heard, Jared Warnock.
Okay.
I can read it into the record if you want. I will not be able to attend the Zoom meeting today regarding John Belozer's contract for the predator control in Wasco County. As a landowner and president of the North Central Livestock Association, I have spoke with many locals who would like to see John Belozer continue to be our predator control agent. John has developed good relationships with numerous landowners, and many of us feel that he is the most qualified for this position.
Okay, thank you.
All right, folks on the call with us, anybody want to unmute and chat?
Hi, I'm Peter Grubb. I'm the ranch manager at Young Life's Washington Ranch. So we're on the very south end of Wasco County. I've been out here for 12 years now. The resource that John has provided when he was working for Wildlife Services is essential to our operation out here. Specifically speaking to the fact that we have, 2 camps here with about 1,000 kids a week, where we do have mountain lions that frequent through the camp, where we've had kills adjacent to intern housing and that do pose a human health and safety issue. And in this environment, it's a very challenging environment to be able to catch those lions, and it needs to be done in a quick and a way that doesn't distract from everything else that we are having in the camp here. So traps and other options really don't work. And John has been a critical part of that equation. And so we would just hate to see that option disappear from what we can communicate to our guests if we do have a situation, and know very well that situation is going to be taken care of in a timely manner, and just trust that he can do it in a way that respects our property and everything that we have going on here. So I think that having John specifically, the skill set that he brings is essential to that component. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Peter. Other folks? Kevin's driving the combine.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, yeah, sorry about being on the combine today, but
you gotta work.
Good. Hey, just wanted to say we've had numerous run-ins with mountain lions at our place. We're kind of in a hot zone, and my wife ran into one while jogging, and we've had problems with the livestock around the house. And every time we've reached out to John, he's been there within an hour to 4 hours and eliminated the problem. And I don't know if anyone's had the opportunity to watch what John does. It's just incredible. Just the action of his dogs and what he's got them trained to do. I don't think there's anyone who could compete with him, to be honest. He's just his skill set, as mentioned earlier, is just phenomenal. So I would just hate to lose that resource. For us, it's a very big blessing to have him in our back pocket if we do run into problems. And so that's all I have. So.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate you joining us from your tractor. I think that's a first for us.
It's a first.
Sorry about that.
No, it's awesome. It's great that you're able to do that. So we appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
Hey, you bet. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, Bob Crine. I know that this topic's come up at a couple of our fire meetings and watershed meetings out in South County, and I can't say anything more than what everybody else has said, but just I think that it's a very valuable asset to be very close, and we've had some kills close to our buildings and things, and John was Johnny on the spot and been right out there. And like I said, he's in our backyard. He knows how to get around in this country. And I know, speaking with Blaine Carver and stuff, that it's an asset for the South County, and something we feel pretty strong of supporting. And I think for no more than the ask is, I think it's a pretty reasonable request. That's my support. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bob. So we got a couple folks on the phone, and then Shane is there as well. Do you guys have anything you want to say?
This is Amy McNamee, also from South County, and I really don't have anything to add besides
what Mr. Crane and Mr. Warnock have talked about, but the topic does come up regularly in our livestock association meetings, and John is a huge asset to South County.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else?
Yeah, this is Shane Gomes.
Yeah, go ahead, Shane. We can not hear you very well, but if you could speak up a little bit.
Okay, I'll do my best here.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's a big issue. I've been in Antelope, which is South Wasco County, same as Peter Grubb. Been here 46 years. We do exist down here, just besides what everybody thinks. You talk about John and everything he does. I don't need to add anything, but there is one thing we do need to add. There's a trust issue, huge trust issue. I won't just let anybody on my property, and I bet each one of you won't do the same thing. So when this gentleman's been working for us for 30 years, we have got that trust. And I'm not going to just allow somebody else to come in from Wildlife Services to do this program, to come hunt on us. That is probably the biggest kicker. When John, I'm not going to say Johnny's old, but when he retires, he will have somebody in place that he will gain our trust through, that we can trust to use. So this is more than just having a person come doing this, because I can almost guarantee the majority of the landowners in South Wasco County and even up north will not just allow anybody on their place. So that's probably one of the biggest issues. And also, especially all of us in South Wasco, this is probably one of the only programs that we use. And everybody says, well, you have fire and you have police. Well, guess what? We have our own fire association. We do our own. I ended up calling OSP before I ever call the sheriff, because they'll get here quicker. Because we're 90 miles from the Dalles, the bottom line. I mean, granted, we're 40 some from Maupin, but still, where the deputy lives there in Maupin. But there's one thing that we use, and this is all coming out of the general fund. I get it. Everybody needs money, and I get the whole thing. But it's probably one of the few things that we use the majority of the time. And that's not just the cougars. Every one of the commissioners, it doesn't matter if it's a skunk, coyote, because you're going to get them. I don't care if you live in town or outskirts, Cherry Heights, 10 Mile, Doofer, wherever. There's more than just the cougar problem. Everybody gets to use this program regardless. And do not let Wildlife Services pull the wool over your eyes. They do not have an aviation program in this state. And I know that they are, but with the money that you guys have been giving to the program, we'll go privately. The aviation program we will have now, which is a huge, huge asset notch in our belt, whatever you want to call it. So I think you're right on. You need to fund it. I think you need to go even higher. I get the whole county landfill issue. Steve and I, Mr. Kramer, we have talked about this. I totally understand it. My question to you guys is, how much per year do you put into the county landfill to take care of the bird problem?
Don't believe we put any in, because we have never been billed by APHIS for any of that work.
So there's no record of, I don't know, John, you probably can't give a number on that either, but there's no record of any money being spent on the landfill.
So to my response, Mr. Gomes, we have an issue now, and we're going to put some money towards it, and we're going to work that out. Today, what we're discussing right now is Mr. Blozier and some issues that we have with predator control is our main focus of this conversation. So I'm going to divert you back to what our topic is. Thank you.
Okay. So what is our what's your proposal, money wise for the, John's contract then now?
We have, before us, we have a misprint on this proposal. And the number is 5,000. John and I discussed that yesterday. And so that's what we have in the budget. And my thoughts on all of this, I don't know where my colleagues stand, but if we have a bigger issue with cougar and a bigger issue with bird, we utilize what we have. And if we need more, then we find it within the budget through the contingency or wherever we need to do to take care of the problem. And we don't know what we're going to get into, so there's no reason to put large amounts of money into budgeted for contracted services when we're not sure that we're going to need them. And so that's what the three of us do. We make sure that we're fiscally responsible to the other 27,000 people in the county. So we got a lot of work to do here, and I'm still in favor of splitting this. I'm still in favor of using the specialized contracts that both organizations hold. And I hope my colleagues will agree to that. But I think that we've got a lot of other work to do. And I'm going to turn this one over to Mr. Stone. He's been working behind the scenes to help us keep APHIS around if we decide to also hire Mr. Blozier. So there's a lot of work, a lot of legal pieces to all of this that we have to work on. It's just not the actual work in the field that we have to deal with. So with that, Chair Hagee, if there's any questions of John that either of you may have, I certainly don't have any, but or if you have any questions of me, I'd like to open up the floor for questions so that we can move forward with discussion.
All right, Tyler, did you have?
Well, so yeah, let me just add two things. So going back in history a little bit, we have traditionally for this wildlife service contract budgeted $5,000 a year to do that through APHIS. Probably been 4 or 5 years ago, we added another contingency amount of $5,000 for wild pigs for feral hogs. And they did a year's worth of work around that. And we've carried that additional $5,000 through our budget process to today. So where our base contract has always been $5,000, we do have $10,000 in the budget. And I think the compromise that we're looking at this year, because it is budgeted, is to retain APHIS because we have the challenges around the landfill with birds, and to also contract Mr. Blozier for more of the South County needs for that additional $5,000. I've been working with APHIS over the last couple of days to see if we could include some contract language that would make them comfortable with a dual wildlife management service in a single county. They're uncomfortable in the sense that they're a federal agency and potentially competing with a private entity now under these things, under these contract documents. And, you know, they don't want to be sued for competition and those kinds of things. So I would put forward some potential middle ground to see if we could add some contract language into Mr. Blozier's contract that basically removes that issue and gives APHIS the security that they need to be able to continue to perform services and also allows us to contract with John for the other services. So APHIS is currently reviewing that. Obviously, you're talking about a legal document with the federal government. It's never as easy as it should be. And so I'm hoping we'll have some, at least some feedback on that proposed solution here in the next few days. So if they're okay with that, then I believe we can proceed forward with both contracts. If they're not, then we currently have a contract in place with APHIS. And it will make it very difficult to continue to retain them, the services that they have, while Mr. Blozier is also providing services in the county. So that's where we're at right now, and just kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for APHIS to get back to us on that proposed solution.
I mean, it sounds like, okay, this is just, I'm thinking, because this was a little confusing to me, because I thought APHIS was doing all, I mean, historically, they've done all of it, right?
And they can
Okay.
still do all of it.
Okay.
I think, you know, what sets them apart right now on the bird issue is the pesticide management. I don't believe that Mr. Blozier does that type of work. So they're really well suited for that right now. Whereas Mr. Blozier is really well suited for the traditional type of work that we've done on the predator control side of things.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, in light of this information that has just arisen, I might make a suggestion that Mr. Blozier and Mr. Stone and legal counsel have a chat and move forward so that, John, you understand where this all is, so that we might be able to come to that solution that we're looking for, and then circle back around, because we can't really make a decision today until we have the information from APHIS, and then have that talk with you, Mr. Blozier, to hopefully we can get to where we want to be, and we'll be able to provide services for all of our constituents in the county.
That's the goal.
Yep, absolutely, that's the goal. So consensus to move forward with that without a motion, and have those talks with legal and with APHIS and the other contractor, Mr. Blozier, to see if this is even doable.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, obviously, if you're going to work it out, I mean, it just seems like there should be, what seems unworkable is that they're both doing the same work in overlapping areas. That seems problematic.
Absolutely.
But I think if you can figure out how it works and who does what to focus on their strengths, I think that would be a good potential solution.
Right. The intent was to provide the best service for basically two set skills. So that was where I was going with all of this, and that was where John was. And so I wanted you to hear from these folks down in the south end.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like we have a challenge up in the north part of up and around the landfill, which needs some significant attention, and then kind of more normal, long-going issues in the south part. Okay, I'm fine with that. I think kind of we hand it off to Tyler to work through those issues and then come back to us when he's resolved it all.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I mean, it's a $5,000 contract on both sides. I can sign that and move that going forward. I don't need to bring it back.
Right.
I can, if I have a workable solution. If I don't have a workable solution, I will be bringing that back because you'll have to make some decisions at that point.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Blozier, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
Actually, I do. So as you all know, I mean, I'm not keeping that a secret. I was employed by that agency for over 30 years. And so I know how that works. You know, when you have an issue at the landfill, and they have done that historically in many other places, you could contract with them on a case-by-case basis when you need them at the landfill. You do not have to sign an annual contract with an amount on it. And I know that for a fact because they've contracted and done many things in many places in my time being employed by them. I'm certainly not telling you folks what to do or how to run the county. I do know, and I appreciate all the support of all the constituents who have taken time out of their day to support me in this. And I have worked here for a long time. I'm a resident of Wasco County full-time. And actually my whole family is. But anyway, the long and short of it is the toxicant they use at the landfill is not something that's available to the general public. It's called DRC 1339. You have to have a public pesticide applicator's license to apply that, and you can only get it through the Pocatello Supply Depot, which belongs to the government. If you needed them to do that at the landfill, and I've lived here for 36 years in this county, and I don't know how many times a year that comes up, you simply could contact them and contract them to do that work, much like they do on the dams in the Columbia and many other things that they do. The legal thing is that they have brought up about that. I would tell you guys this, I view this providing this service that we're invited guests to this table, all of us that provide services, and these men and women that have taken the time out today to call you, without their support, I wouldn't have a program, I wouldn't have a job. I think that we can provide a better service and not have all of some of the bureaucracy that goes with it. And I think we can better spend our constituents' money in Central Oregon. And I think you could still cover that landfill thing because I can't compete with them in that. And I've told all the other counties I work in that as well. But all these other things that come up much more frequently in a county like ours, especially in the central and south end, I certainly think that I'm probably as well equipped and trained to do that as anybody that lives here, and I live here. That's the other thing is, you know, to try and do that part of this equation, whether I'm really good at it or not, and I appreciate all the kudos I got from my constituents, but where are they going to get someone to come do that here, especially for the small amount of money? And, you know, there isn't a whole lot of money changing hands in this deal as well, and I understand everybody's on financial constraints and I'm not headed down that path, but I would tell you that I think you could do that on a case-by-case thing with them at the landfill and not have an annual yearly thing. I know they do that other places. I just want to throw that out to you.
All right, thank you. All right,
Wait,
you had a question?
of course.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Belozer, it's very nice to meet you. And
thank you. Yeah, thank you. You as well.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a few questions. I was wondering, what do you see are the management issues in the county? I know we've heard a lot about cougars today, but what other issues do we have? And I know that with some of the data we've received from APHIS, there's been coyotes and cougars. Are there other issues?
You know, so I would tell you this, you guys, that in any entity, all of us probably have more things on our plate than we can do in a given day. And so when you do the kind of work that I do, I worked in 4 and 5 counties for the last, long time, over 2 decades. And so you have to prioritize your work. The 2 main things in Southern Wasco County would be that. And so that's the deal. I mean, there also is other things, but again, when you're talking about putting in that little sliver of money, and I think that you guys got that. And again, I'm not beating you guys up. I'm just telling you, but you can see the amounts that some of the other counties put in. You honestly do get what you pay for. If you wanted someone to just live here full time, and do everything that came up here, I think those programs now are costing counties in the neighborhood of $80,000 a year of your county money. And then they say that they give you, some matching money and stuff. But in my estimation as a business person, which I do own one of those too, if you take 27% right off the top of the money somebody gives you, and then you give them a certain percentage back, but it doesn't match that, or it's pretty close, and then you take other things out of that, that's a bit of a shell game. But I'm not here to beat those people up. They have to run their program, and I understand that. Anyway, that is the main thing. If you guys, basically, I guess what I'd tell you is the more money that you put into that, the more services that you could get. And I think we all understand that. I did talk to Commissioner Kramer, and one thing I wanted to I'm glad you asked that question, is I can't tell you any better about what I might do in the next 12 months in Wasco County, any better than Sheriff McGill could tell you how many search and rescue things we'll have this year, because it's a thing, it's a reaction thing. It's dealing with problems, and we can't like forecast that. But you need to have a vehicle or a vehicle, you need to have a thing in place you can go do that. And I'm not going to go into all the details of what I do for work and stuff, but this isn't something, what I do for a living, this isn't something that somebody can do, part-time, or if you never went and did it, and then the day that you call me to go call that person, whoever it would be, they would fail at that miserably. That's the one thing I do know, is that if you don't do what I do all the time, that you're not going to be ready to go provide that service when you're called upon.
Thank you. I do have a couple other questions. So will you be subcontracting with other folks to do this work as well, or is it just you?
I will have one other person that can cover for me that will be under my liability insurance and umbrellas and stuff. And he actually is a special deputy for the Crook County, Oregon. And I'm actually looking at doing that for myself. I've already spoke to the sheriff in Jefferson County, and I'm going to talk to Lane McGill. And that is something we haven't even got settled for Wasco yet. So we've got to wait and see that, see where this ends up. But yes, so I would have a person that would do that, would be covered under my same liabilities and stuff. And the deal is everybody looks, and I'm not trying to beat them up, but everybody looks at a government program and said, well, they've got 100 people that can go do that. I'm going to point out something, and people that know me know this, and you guys have it. So I'll just tell you, in 2018, I got hurt really bad in a mule accident at work, a horseback riding accident at work. Wildlife Services, of course, has other people that work for them. In the 7 months that I was injured and couldn't go do that, they removed exactly one lion from Central Oregon in the whole time I was injured. So when they just tell you that, hey, we've got this big bench of people we're just going to send to do that, I would tell you, just as a professional wildlife damage management person, that that's not true. Again, I'm not trying to beat them up. I'm just telling you that that is a fact, and that can be proven. And the other thing is, without the support of our constituents, which these people that are on this call, the counties that have already executed these contracts would not have done that just for me. I feel like I provide a service to these folks, and they support me, and they want to see me here. I think you've already heard from them, and I'm not going to reiterate that anymore, but the idea that if you have that you're just always covered, I just don't, that would be an untruth. That's what I tell you.
Thank you. And another question, it's a little confusing to me. Do you actually do helicopter work? Do you rent helicopter? How does that work?
Yes. So thank you for asking. And now I'm going to go into another deal. So this is, if you've got 2 minutes, I'm going to back up a little bit. So I started working for Wildlife Services when I was 17 years old in Northeast Oregon. I have been employed by them ever since, until May 31st of this year. I don't have to go into the details of why I'm not employed by them anymore, but let's just say that we're not. So I was infinitely involved in our aviation program, to the point that I was one of our main aerial gunners throughout Eastern Oregon. I have about 8,500 hours of doing that. We have not had a viable aviation program in Oregon, a viable one probably since in the early or mid 2000s. But basically, we haven't even, maybe they've hired one in the last, since I've left in May. I don't know that because I don't converse with those folks. So what we have done is we contract with a private contract helicopter, Leading Edge Aviation out of Clarkson, Washington. Jim Pope is kind of nationally known as probably the best person to go do that with, at least in the Western United States and possibly in the world. He owns a private business where he does animal capture all over the Western United States. And then he does that and contracted for us. So all of the aviation stuff we've done in Central Oregon in the last quite a few years has been with him. Okay. So, and I have served as his crew member, gunner, whatever you want to call it. And I've probably flown 1,000 or 1,100 hours with Jim. He's a close friend of mine and he's extremely capable at what he does, the best in the business. And I've done it a lot. That being said, you guys are not putting in a whole bunch of money in the other contracts. If you looked at my proposal, what I did is I took the 27% of that money that Wildlife Services used as admin fees, and I'm putting that towards contract aerial hunting to hire Jim to do that, to help these people with the problems they're having. Nothing's perfect. I understand that. I honestly believe that we can do that and provide as good or better, better. I mean, right now they don't even have one. And again, to not go into big giant details, but a lot of these things that we do, that I've done for a long time, are not something that you just step into and do in 5 minutes. Now, again, the government just in general, and I'm not trying to beat them up, they're like, well, we're the experts at that. And it's like, well, if you don't do it and we don't have anyone, I mean, I was lectured before I left their employment that you can't tell people we don't have an aviation program. And I just want you to think about this for a minute. How would you have an aviation program if you don't have a pilot? Because they didn't have one. So anyway, so yes, so that is the deal. And that, again, that's covered under, all of this has been looked at and it's all covered under my liability deals and stuff. So those are going to be set forth in the other two counties. That's already kind of in the process of being done, but we won't do that till the time of year where we're not wasting the money doing it. Anyway, so yes, so that's going to be part of this program going forward.
Okay, and I think I just have one more question for you. In the proposal, it mentions Wheeler County. Are they still in this, or is it just Jefferson, Crook, and Wasco?
So I will tell you this, and I wouldn't have brought it up if you didn't ask. I think, again, that these programs function on trust and they function on the support of the constituents that use it. And I would tell you this, and I'm not, different. I understand that different county administrations have to make decisions because of different things. But I will tell you this, I know the folks that own just a bit, well, not all, not most, but all. There is possibly one large landowner in Wheeler County in favor of keeping that Wildlife Services program out of over 100. And so they are, I don't know what will happen there, and that's completely up to it's between my constituents in that county. But I can tell you that that's being worked on. But at this time, I would tell you that they're not out. I think that for whatever reason, the county administration didn't listen to their constituents and they're going to use Wildlife Services. And there's actually talk over there right now that the constituents themselves will fund me privately rather than do something like that. But that hasn't come to fruition yet, but those guys are working on that right now. And when I say those guys, I mean the taxpayers of that county are working.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I just, I do want to say that I did talk to, ODFW and APHIS, and I will say that they did really commend you for certainly the work that you have done, especially around cougars, and that you are really the expert. So I want to just, share that with you. So
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Shane has his hand up.
Bob.
Gotta love virtual stuff. Yes, just real quick. Board of Commission, I was just thank you for the clarification on the money. And I do like what you said, Mr. Kramer, about the emergency, what I'm understanding contingency plan. Because if we get some serious issues and all of a sudden we've burned up the money, I like to hear that you guys have some, if this moves forward, you have a backup plan to help out, not just us, but anybody in general. And I want to thank you guys and thank you for your time.
All right, thanks, Shane. Bob, go ahead.
One thing on Kathy's original question is feral pigs, I think, are a big issue in agriculture in general. And 3, 4, 6 years ago, we had some on our ranch in Shantico, and they're not here anymore. And I don't know who else that kills them, but I mean, I think I've shot 2 in my life. They're really, it's like our coyotes. Ranchers aren't very good predator controllers. It's fun to shoot, but they're hard to kill. But I think the aerial program, I don't know how many pigs Mr. Belosier made leave Wasco County, but I think it was quite a few. And the fact that we don't have them means it's not necessarily a problem, but it's always a threat. And the fact that with a couple phone calls, you can mount an aerial defense and take out a bunch of those is pretty important. I know from the SWCD work, we have a few dollars set aside for feral pigs just because they're so hard on the riparian areas in the county. And I think that could be an issue. I think the issue's been very well addressed in the last 4, 5, 6 years. But I was just going to go back to the original question. Coyotes and cougars are a big problem, but I think feral pigs may be the biggest risk to the county left unchecked.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bob. All right, so I would say we have consensus. The consensus is that Tyler's going to be working through this and work it out, hopefully. And then if not, he'll be coming back to us. That's our consensus, right?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
And so, Mr. Belosier, I'll be in contact with you to get you and Tyler's contacts exchanged, and we'll continue this conversation.
Thank you. Hey, I'll just add one more thing since Bob brought it up. And I was under the employment of them, and the original part of that aerial feral swine removal was paid for by the Bureau of Land Management. And we used Jim Pope, which is our contract helicopter guy, which I'll continue to use. But in the time that we did that, I believe that we removed right at 1,000 feral swine from Central Oregon, and Jim and I killed most of those, 90% of them.
All right, thanks. Yes.
I just want to make a quick comment. The county is profiting from the landfill, and it's important that they realize they have a responsibility. So if there's anything that conflicts with the ability of APHIS to get this project done, I'd really appreciate it if you come back to us and let us know and let us respond.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, as we said earlier, I think we're going to invite APHIS to come and talk to us about what's going on, what's the plan, when it's going to happen, and all that stuff, so that we can move forward on your guys' challenges. So, yep. Yes, ma'am.
My question is similar. I'm Marlis Rufner's of Keith Henry, East 21st. And it appears to me that the landfill or the crows are proliferating because of this huge food source and habitat provided by the landfill, and that the county, as I understand it, has some culpability in that, having the contract with Waste Connections. So my question is, what is the county's culpability in regards to all of the other predators that we're talking about? The swine, the cougar, and so on. Does the county have any culpability in?
As in responsibility for,
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know that we do. I think it's generally something that governments typically have, historically taken care of, as a governmental entity. I mean, that's why APHIS even exists, because there's been predator problems throughout, the United States. So I think it's more historical. And I'm not sure what kind of culpability we necessarily have with the landfill either. I mean, yeah, we do have an agreement with them, but we don't operate it. We don't control it. We don't tell them what to do or what not to do, but we do have an expectation that they're going to operate it efficiently and not create problems, which is why I think we're having this discussion. Well, we have an agreement with them and they pay us money. So yeah, I mean, we don't generally talk about profiting in government. We talk about functional operation. That's usually what we're doing. We're trying to operate as a government. So we have resources that come in so that we can provide services, this wide breadth of services, from a government standpoint. But yeah, we're trying to address the issue. It's been brought forward and hopefully we'll have good discussions and positive directions in the future.
And I do think, as Commissioner Hickey says about the historical aspect of it, it really is around protecting our food source, throughout the country, really. And that's probably why APHIS exists. So that's probably pretty critical to making sure that we have a food source in this country for sure. So that's kind of where my head goes, but.
Which is same thing in terms of fruit. So,
yeah.
Yep. So, all right. I think we're good. I think we have another hand up. Sheila.
Hey, oh, hi. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that with the landfill, I assume that these birds, a lot of them are coming because they're attracted to food scraps. So it's too bad we couldn't encourage people to compost more. I guess people don't want to be bothered, but that would be one way to help reduce the, attraction to the birds. And also with pesticides, I hope you'll consider, they kill pretty indiscriminately and they can work their way up the food chain. So I hope that's taken into consideration.
Yeah, and it sounds like we will have a discussion with APHIS about that going forward. So those are all good questions and we can certainly chat about that. And if people compost, then you don't send it to the landfill and maybe you save a little money on your side and you have something you can use.
Right. Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks, Sheila. All right, I think we're done with that. Thanks for coming. Thanks everyone for being here. Do we have an executive session? Okay, so we're going to take a 5-minute break. Is that okay? Sure. Yeah, we're gonna get a 5-minute break and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna go into executive session.
Thanks, guys.
And go from there.